What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's filthiest pitches of the day. Remember, before I get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Join Ninja Nation. Be a part of the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube. And now, without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start with Logan Allen, who had 8 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. At his fastball, splitter, and sweeper all working. Allen is a highly touted prospect, number 8 in Cleveland's organization, an organization that seemingly keeps churning out great pitchers. He outdueled Jesus Luzardo, the Jesus Lizard, who had 6 Ks in 4 1/3 innings but gave up 4 runs, but he did get Ks on his changeup, his fastball, and his slider. Brayan Bello had this nasty changeup and sinker and had 3 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. He battled Corbin Burns, who had 5 Ks in 5 innings, giving up only 2 earned runs. Burns did a little painting outside the lines with this paintish cutter and this nearly painted backdoor cutter. He also had this sinker and got a sword on a curveball. Yu Darvish had an array of wicked breaking balls, including sweepers. It helped get him to 5 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 run. He left this start due to leg cramps right before he could get his 6th strikeout, which would have won me my parlay. Obviously, more importantly, you will be just fine and will not miss a start. Zach Eflin had 4 strikeouts in 5 innings, giving up only 1 run, thanks to his 2 seamers and curveball. He faced Lucas Giolito, who had this slider and fastball, and had 5 Ks in 7 innings, but gave up 4 runs. Grayson Rodriguez was outstanding yesterday. He got to bend the knee on this slider, had his nasty changeup, his overpowering 97-mile-an-hour fastball, and had 6 Ks in 5 scoreless innings. Another highly touted prospect that looks to be making waves. Gray Rod faced off against E-Rod, Eduardo Rodriguez, who had 6 Ks in 7 one-hit innings, and had this painted fastball, this sick cutter, and dirty changeup. Reed Detmers had his mix of fastballs, high velo sliders. Check these out, they're wicked. And, of course, his gorgeous 77-mile-an-hour curveball, and had 6 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings, giving up only 2 runs. He faced off against Jordan Lyles, who had 5 Ks in 6 innings, but gave up 4 runs. Lyles had this gorgeous curveball that dismantled Ohtani, but spoiler alert, Ohtani got his revenge by going yard against him later in the game. Cristian Javier had 10 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 1 earned run, and he really relied on his fastball and slider combo. His fastball is particularly tough because despite not having top-end velo, his approach angle due to his arm slot and spin gives his fastball less drop than most other pitchers at that same velocity. And that, combined with his sharp biting slider, can give hitters fits. Javier dueled Max Fried, who had his mid-90s fastballs, one of them getting this underwater swing. And of course, Fried mixed in his elite curveball, and here's an overlay of a 94-mile-an-hour fastball and a 73-mile-an-hour curveball, and you can see how that curveball just disappears right when you're ready to swing at it. Hunter Greene had his overpowering mix of upper 90s 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and nasty sliders, and got 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. He was actually outdueled by Vince Velasquez, who was brilliant, with 10 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up only 2 hits and no runs. Velasquez relied on his wicked sliders. Amazingly, this is the Pirates' 14th quality start in only 23 games. It took them 82 games last year to get to that number. Break up the Pirates' pitching staff. Jack Flaherty went 6 innings with 9 Ks, nice, and had these sliders, knuckle curve, and 97-mile-an-hour fastball. Clayton Kershaw had these wicked sliders on his way to 6 strikeouts in 6 innings, giving up only 1 earned run. He battled Marcus Stroman, who had 5 Ks in 5 innings, but did give up 5 runs. His first meh outing for the Cubs this year, but Stroh did have these painted 2-seamers. Bailey Ober had 4 Ks in 5 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 run thanks to his sliders, and he faced Patrick Corbin, who had 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 3 runs thanks to his slider and painted sinker. Jacob deGrom was brilliant yesterday with 11 strikeouts in 6 innings, giving up only 1 run, and only threw 80 pitches to get those 11 Ks. He had his 101-mile-an-hour fastball, and of course his world-class sliders, and even got a couple of White Castle specials. And I thought this overlay was great because here's an overlay of one of his White Castle specials. You can see how well he repeats his mechanics and the pitch. He is a glove-side slider robot. He can throw this pitch all day, and hitters really can't do anything about it because you also have to respect his 100-mile-an-hour fastball. deGrom even worked in some more changeups, and they were deadly as well. Another fabulous outing by DeGoat. Clark Schmidt had 8 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings, giving up only 3 hits and no earned runs. He had this wicked sinker and these filthy breaking balls. And he battled Kevin Gausman, who probably had the best outing of the day yesterday, with 11 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up no runs and only 3 hits. And he walked none. Just a great bounce-back outing from Gausman. And he really overwhelmed the Yankees with his mix of fastballs and splitters. And I did this overlay of Gausman's fastball and splitter, and you can see how well he repeats his mechanics, and why as a hitter, it's basically a guess. You have to start your swing and you're not sure whether it's an elevated fastball or this splitter that's going to end up down by your knees. Zack Wheeler had 11 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 3 hits, but he gave up 3 runs. But those 3 runs don't indicate how filthy Wheeler was. He of course had his upper 90s fastball and his curveballs working, but he also put on a slider and sweeper show with 35 sliders and sweepers. And here are a few overlays of his fastball and slider and sweeper, and you can see why those are so tough to hit. But Wheeler also had the filthiest pitch of the day by a starter, and that was this evil 95-mile-an-hour sinker that got the fatality. This thing ran 22 inches. Just an evil pitch. And if you look closely, you can see when Trejo's soul left his body. Another member of the eternal IL. Pre-game on Peacock, I gave this explanation of Wheeler's sweeper. I thought I'd share some of it with you. So sweeper isn't totally a new pitch. It's a name for a pitch that's been around for a little bit, but it's a subcategory of sliders. And it happens, sliders usually will break, maybe gyro spin, break straight down. These tend to sweep, as their name implies, so much more horizontal movement. And sliders have moved over 12 inches, 3 times more over the last few years than they had previously. And you see here with Zack Wheeler, he has both a slider and a sweeper. His slider only moves an inch. His sweeper moves up to 10 inches, and you can see how big the difference is for a hitter. Like you could throw the same slider to the same hitter and have it do 2 different things. And that's nasty. A reminder, every Sunday morning, I'll be on Peacock on their pregame show. So tune in sometime and check it out. Now on to my filthiest relievers. Austin Warren had this painted slider. Brian Abreu had this wicked slider. Jose Alvarado had this cutter and nearly painted 101-mile-an-hour sinker. David Bednar had these fastballs. Felix Bautista had this 100-mile-an-hour heat. Jeff Brigham had 4 Ks and 2 scoreless innings in relief and got absolutely fired up. Also, here's a home plate view of his sweeper, and look how disgusting that is. And this gives you a great visual of why it's called a sweeper, because it just sweeps across the strike zone. Brooks Rayleigh had these sweepers. Giovanni Gallegos had this slider and fastball. Josh Hader had this cheese at the knees. Brent Honeywell had this screwball for a K, and anytime I can show you a screwball, I will do it. Camilo Doval had this filthy slider and 100-mile-an-hour heat. Pete Fairbanks had this dirty 98-mile-an-hour fastball that somehow got a swing on it. Ian Hamilton had this sick slambio. What's a slambio? Well, it's a slider thrown with a changeup grip, or basically a cut changeup. And here's a look at Hamilton's grip, and you can see what I mean. You see how he grips it like a changeup, but he releases it just like a slider. Alex Lang had this 89-mile-an-hour hammer. Phil Maton had this 73-mile-an-hour curveball with over 3,000 RPMs. Tyler Rogers had this paint. On no planet is this paint. And had this cool rising slider, and I love this view of it because you can really see how that thing rises. But my filthiest reliever from yesterday was Jhoan Duran, who not only threw this 102-mile-an-hour fastball that had 15 inches of run, but threw this 92-mile-an-hour curveball. A 92-mile-an-hour curveball is just ridiculous. My man is a cheat code, and don't forget, he throws like a 99-100-mile-an-hour splinker too. Just unfair stuff. And now, my pitching ninja moment of zen. David Cohn did this great explanation of how rosin and alcohol make that rosin even extra stickier. And alcohol is what Max Scherzer was told to wipe off his rosin with in front of MLB officials.
Well, we did a little, experiment before the game, and I had the rosin bag right there. That's the rock rosin. I had not too much sweat to work with, but even with just the rock rosin, it got sticky. And then I went to the alcohol to show you, okay, let me clean it off. I had a little discoloration from the rosin. That's right after the alcohol, and see the alcohol sort of activates
what's left of the rosin?
Absolutely. And I went back to the rosin bag after the alcohol as well, and that's what I got right there.
Just a great job of explaining this Scherzer foreign substance situation. What is up, everybody? My picks of the day today are a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to start out with Chris Bassett for 5Ks or more, then take Chris Sale for 7Ks or more, and top it off with Spencer Strider, aka Quadzilla, for 9Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?